The City of Phoenix holds community budget hearings throughout April, allowing residents to comment and make suggestions on the city manager's trial budget before final decisions are made. This public discussion is among the reasons the city's budget so closely matches the community's highest priorities each fiscal year.
All right, good morning. Welcome to Senior Opportunity West budget hearing this morning. This is a morning hearing this week. Councilman Gallego asked to be sure that we got a morning hearing in, and so here we are. We've got a couple others elsewhere too.
The girl's okay?
All right, we're going to get started. Just a couple of reminders for you that we are taping this for Channel 11. It will be on YouTube and available for people citywide, worldwide to see. We are taking minutes, so the comments are recorded and they are made available to all the council members. We have meetings going on at the same time, so it's not possible for any one person to be at every meeting, but it is possible for people to read the comments that are said in each meeting. I want to thank our city staff for being here. They're here as part of their regular time. They're not getting paid extra to do that, and they're here to help anybody who has specific questions about what's happening. If anyone needs interpretation services in Espanol, please see our interpreter. Thank you. This is our trial budget for 2017-18. We will have a 10-minute video and then time for comments. And so if you would like to speak, we'd ask you to fill out a card to turn in. We have 2 at the moment, so there's more room for folks. Also ask you if you pick up a budget pamphlet that will explain in more detail things you'll see in the video, and then online at phoenix.gov/budget, even more detail at that point. At this point, I would like to ask our councilwoman for this district, Councilwoman Kate Gallego, to give a welcome and make some comments. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you all for coming out, and thank you to Senior Opportunities West for hosting us today. Several years ago, people who are big fans of Senior Opportunities West came to budget hearings throughout the city, so this year we thought we would come to you. It's also part of our partnership with AARP to be an age-friendly community. As part of that, we commit to holding meetings at times that are convenient for people of all ages, including times when you can drive during daylight. So we thought this would be a good opportunity to come here. I understand we may have conflicted with bingo, and we will not make that mistake again next year. Our apologies. But we do want to thank all the city staff who've come out to provide their expertise and all the community members who provide their feedback as well. Your time is valuable, and we are grateful you are willing to share it with us. And we look forward to your comments. And we want to welcome the Mayor's Senior Policy Advisor is also here today to help us out, and as well as many department heads. So thank you all for your time.
Let's show the video.
And now we will show the video.
Hello everyone, and welcome to your first look at the City of Phoenix 2017-18 trial budget. The City of Phoenix wants to hear from you. Your ideas can help shape the budget each year. The final budget provides the plan for how the city will spend taxpayer money on key services you want and need, like police, fire, transit, city parks and swimming pools, libraries, youth and education, graffiti prevention, arts and culture, and help for seniors, and how they all could be impacted. The 2017-18 Phoenix City budget is balanced as required by state law and city charter. In this trial budget, the city is preserving the services our residents value. Out of the $1.2 billion general fund budget, there is a small $1.9 million surplus. This video will present proposals on how to use these funds. So here's how the city's budget breaks down. There are 3 sources: the general fund, enterprise fund, and special revenue fund. Let's start with the general fund. 3/4 of the general fund is for police, fire, courts, with the remaining 25% going for everything else like libraries, parks, senior services, arts, and administrative and support functions. Enterprise fund departments include aviation, water services, solid waste services, and the convention center. Special revenue funds come mostly from dedicated taxes that must be used for a specific purpose. For example, the Phoenix Parks and Preserves Initiative, also called 3PI, or Transportation 2050. That funding goes for transit, light rail, and streets. Under the strong leadership of the mayor and city council, we are glad to say the budget is balanced. Phoenix employees strive every day to work smarter, save money, and serve our customers. That includes making sound financial decisions, like keeping our credit rating strong, spending within our means, and looking for savings to use for important community services. Now let's take a look at the recommendations for additions to the budget for next fiscal year. In the general fund, there is a little less than $2 million extra, plus some opportunities to use funds differently to add service. First, adding 16 civilian police assistants. They will take over some administrative duties, freeing up officers so the officers can respond to emergency calls.
So adding police assistance to our existing staffing resources is going to do a couple of things. It's going to get our first responders back on those priority calls for service faster and increase our service delivery to our community.
Next, focusing on homelessness in our city. The plan is to create more outreach teams by eliminating 6 vacant positions in the Human Services Department. This would free up about $500,000 to send teams of outreach workers to homeless residents on the street to connect them with services and a place for shelter.
These services are critical to the city. These professional outreach teams will work hand in hand with our community partners, neighborhoods, police, to bring these really important services to a very vulnerable population.
For the library, there are 2 recommendations. Contract savings would make security at Burton Bar Central Library permanent, and the other is to create more opportunities to engage kids in educational programs. Now, that leaves about 1/3 of the surplus untouched. So the proposed budget calls for strategically setting aside that funding, about $641,000, into a rainy day fund. The intent is to offset a potential deficit in the 2018-19 budget, which was projected in the city's 5-year forecast. Okay, time now to get back to the 2017-18 budget proposals. Let's look at the enterprise funds. These services are funded with user fees, with the exception of the Phoenix Convention Center. The budget calls for putting a new emergency operations center and ambulance at Sky Harbor International Airport. This would ensure that if anyone at the airport needs medical attention, they can get to the hospital quickly from Sky Harbor. Next, the solid waste funds pays for our trash collection and recycling services. It's proposed to add 8 positions to enhance worker safety and increase collections. Perhaps you've heard of the Reimagine Phoenix campaign. This is all part of support for the goal from mayor and council to divert 40% of what ends up in our landfills by the year 2020 through recycling, composting, and education. Okay, now to other restricted funds, which are dedicated to specific services. The Phoenix Parks and Preserve Initiative Fund comes from a 1/10 cent tax to support our world-renowned parks system. To support safe use of our parks and preserve system and public safety, the trial budget would add 22 new park rangers. This would extend trailhead hours and provide additional support at flatland parks around the city.
By adding rangers, we can extend the park hours at specific locations by 2 additional hours, which means that instead of hiking in the heat of the day, you can hike a little bit later. You can drive actually into the trailhead and continue your hiking later into the evening while it's still a little bit cooler.
13 of the new park rangers would be assigned to the city's more heavily visited locations, including North Mountain, Piestewa Peak, South Mountain, and other trailheads like Echo Canyon, Cholla, and Lookout Mountain. The other 9 would be assigned to flatland parks.
Additional rangers in our community and flatland parks provide that extra layer of customer service that we currently don't have, and it'll provide an opportunity for people to get education or learn more about what's going on in the parks and just provide that extra layer of enhanced customer service.
Also included would be funding to maintain 2 new dog parks, one at Reach 11 and the other at Deer Valley Park. From the Transportation 2050 funds, the budget calls for expanding service on some of the busiest routes around the city. It would also increase weekday midday frequency on routes serving Thomas and Camelback roads. And from the Development Services Fund, the proposal is to add several positions to keep up with increased building permits and inspections due to economic growth. Also, to increase and enhance communication and continue our efforts to streamline processes. One last important update is on the hiring of more police officers and firefighters. The city is on target to meet its recruiting goals of 3,125 officers and 1,615 firefighters.
This budget that we're talking about now includes the addition of roughly 250 officers next year, getting us to our sustainable goal.
So it's important for us to keep the public safe and live within our means. In 2009, our public safety funds were significantly in a deficit. To avoid layoffs and to balance the budget, we stopped hiring. By 2015, we were back, and we've been hiring police officers and firefighters since then.
While we're down from our peak level of staffing in the police department, we're also significantly down in our calls for service to the department. Over the last few years, as population and calls for service have increased, we're also fortunate to return to hiring officers.
So we've been recruiting in-state for a long time, but now we have that extra effort to be able to go out of state to recruit. What an amazing opportunity to increase the number of people that we find and can look for to build our staffing here in the Phoenix Police Department.
It allows a safe, effective response to whatever emergency is happening in the city of Phoenix. So whether it's a heart attack, if it's a house fire, structure fire, if it's a mountain rescue, is that by having 4-person staffing, it ensures adequate, safe response to meet whatever needs we encounter.
Now keep in mind, this year's budget hasn't been adopted just yet. Your input is important, and the City of Phoenix wants to hear from you on what the upcoming budget should look like. So to recap a few highlights, the 2017-18 trial budget calls for 16 new police assistants to free up sworn officers from administrative work, 22 park rangers, which would allow some trailheads to be open longer during the summer, eliminating 6 vacant positions to free up money to expand the city's homeless outreach. Again, this is a balanced budget with some money set aside as a head start for future use. 17 public hearings will take place this month across all council districts, and you are encouraged to attend. Make sure you pick up a budget pamphlet outlining all the proposals and options at any of the public meeting or online at phoenix.gov/budget. You can also send your comments or questions to budget.research@phoenix.gov, or to reach us by phone, please call 602-262-4800. You can also comment on social media by using #PhoenixBudget. Thank you for your interest in the City of Phoenix budget and being a part of the budget process.
All right, we will take comments. We would ask if you would speak at the microphone here. That helps the Channel 11 folks get you on tape, and also so everyone can hear. If it's too difficult to come to the microphone, we will bring a microphone to you if you'd like that. And with that, we will move to the cards. We would ask you to take about no more than 3 minutes. We'll let you know when you're getting close to that time for speaking. Okay. Our first speaker we have is Ryan Harper.
So I don't have to bend over here. Or actually, can I just take this out? I'll just do this instead.
Just make sure it's on a second.
Better?
There you go.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Gallego and members of City of Phoenix staff, thank you for allowing the opportunity to come today and speak about the city budget. I'm here to speak on behalf of almost 6,000 unduplicated homeless men and women who spend at least one night a year at the Central Arizona Shelter Services, known as CAS, where I serve on the board. As many of you know, CAS has a 30-year history of operating as a regional solution for homelessness, providing shelter and services. Despite our efforts, we cannot keep up with the ever-increasing demands of homelessness services. I want to be clear, homelessness is increasing in Maricopa County. The City of Phoenix has a long history of supporting CAS operations.
We have a request that people cannot hear in the back.
I can try to speak louder. Does that work, or?
Louder would be appreciated.
All right, thank you. All right. City of Phoenix has a long history of supporting CAS operations, and we are grateful for the city's financial support for our mission. Even with the financial support from City of Phoenix, CAS has immediate, critical financial needs. First, CAS faces an operating budget deficit in the current fiscal year. We recognize that government resources outpace community needs, and we would not come here without first looking internally at our own budgets. We have cut operation expenditures and set a goal of increasing private fundraising by 30%. Even with these measures, we still have a $200,000 deficit, which jeopardizes our ability to provide CAS level of services to our clients. Second, CAS desperately needs caseworkers. We currently operate with a 50-to-1 ratio of clients to caseworkers, which is well below the national average of 30-to-1. An additional $200,000 would allow CAS to hire an extra 5 caseworkers to approach that 30-to-1 national average. Additional caseworkers will shorten client length of stay, opening up more beds in our shelter so we can serve more individuals. Decreasing the length of stay and opening beds at CAS is going to be critical so that we can accommodate the expected increases in clients due to the City of Phoenix's new homeless outreach program. In summary, we are very grateful for the support that the City of Phoenix provides CAS, and that we ask that the city consider increasing its funding to CAS by a total of $400,000. $200,000 to help close our operational deficit so that we can continue to provide the current level of services to our clients, and another $200,000 for additional caseworkers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harper. The second speaker we have is Daryl Kriplian, and Daryl will be followed by Betty.
Good morning. My name is Daryl Kriplian. I'm with the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association.
You got to get closer to the mic so they won't be able to hear you. There you go. That's okay. Yeah. Okay.
I'm with the Phoenix Law.
Can you hear me? There you go.
With the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association. A couple things we want to address. First, I just want to read something to you, everyone. Exceptional customer service. We exist to provide responsive and consistent customer service to the community and to city employees. We exhibit empathy by listening to each other and to the public in our efforts to deliver services that improve people's lives. That is actually the #1 core value of the city of Phoenix.
Got to hold it right close. There you go.
Okay. The police department fails on a core value daily in every part of the city, and here are some facts when I say that. Average response times for priority 1 calls are over 7 minutes. Actual response times directly from some officers in parts of the city are closer to 10 to 15 minutes. Response times for priority 3 calls, for the burglaries, the assaults with no suspects still in the area, are in the area of 3 hours, and sometimes they're closer to 6 to 10 hours, depending on the area of town and the calls for service. The video presentation that was presented stated that the calls for service are declining. Those numbers are a little bit misleading. The 0102 numbers that were cited were in the 800,000 range. In 2010, we had a different way to calculate OV calls. In 0102, those were figured into dispatched calls. In 2010, that changed to a separate line item for the most part, and the traffic stops and the subject stops were not included in actual dispatched calls. January 16 to 11 of 16, we did have 632,000 calls for service, but we also had almost 140,000 OV calls. That comes up to about 771,000 calls. I don't think it's unreasonable for a citizen who is a victim of a crime to expect police service to be prompt. When they come home and find that their house was broken into, waiting 3, 6, 8 hours for a responding officer is unacceptable. A lot of times, traffic collisions, if you're involved in a traffic collision in the city, the average response time is between 30 and 45 minutes, sometimes more than an hour. If your car is disabled in the middle of that intersection, it can't be moved, that also ties up traffic, which affects other folks' commute. City management must correct this manpower crisis we find ourselves in. Not only is it poor customer service, it is dangerous for our men and women who have taken an oath to serve the city and its citizens. The city manager feels that 3125 officers is sufficient, as that is what the city can afford. Coincidentally, our staffing was 3388 officers in 2008. That's a negative 263 officers. A consistently recognized staffing level for police departments throughout the country is 2.5 police officers per 1,000 residents. We are currently at 1.7 in the city of Phoenix. To be at 2.5, that would require us to be at 4,000 police officers from the top on down. This is how we can better ensure the safety of our residents and our officers. As just an example of the crisis we have with the staffing, the community of Ahwatukee currently has about 77,000 residents. Approximately 35,000 more residents than the city of Prescott. I spoke with a Prescott police officer yesterday. Every shift they staff 7 police officers and 1 sergeant for their area. We staff 3 per shift in Ahwatukee. The City Council must take a leadership role to secure the necessary funding to get our police to the appropriate staffing level to help us live up to and provide the exceptional customer service that the citizens of this city deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. Just one couple things on that. Your comments about the traffic and whatnot, that is really the reason why we want to try the police assistants, because those police assistants will free up sworn officers from the non-injury accidents that are tying up so much time. So we think that's really, really important to do. And we are on track to hire 3125, but we're not there yet. So the first thing we need to do is to get ourselves to 3125. And that's going to take us probably the next 18 months to do.
Can I respond? The police assistant program is a good program. I think it's going to really free up some officers to be able to take regular calls. The problem is 16 of them, they're going to be spread about 2 per precinct, and most likely because they're unarmed, they're going to be on day shift. Second shift, I mean, day shift is busy, and third shift is busy, but second shift is the crux of the work, and that's where the officers really fall behind in answering other calls that aren't as prioritized, or prioritized lower than some of those ones that need to address. So it's a great program, but it's not nearly enough in my opinion.
Sure, it's a start this year, but thanks for those comments. Next we have Betty, doesn't have a last name. Betty? Okay? That's okay. Betty will be followed by Bobby McLeod.
I'm Betty Dunell from Senior West, and what I need, we need verified buses back home. They took them from us, so we really need them back home, so we don't have much transportation, and we really need them back home. And we need more policemen over here. We have a lot of seniors in all the centers, and we really need them over here too. And we really need to get the buses back home. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. Bobby McLeod is next, and Bobby will be followed by Helen Yanez. I'm sorry. Helen is giving her time to Bobby. You came with a team today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I sit?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
I didn't come with a team, this is home, okay? Excuse me, I'm short of breath. My name is Bobby McLeod. I want to speak on a couple. Can't hear me?
Fans want more.
They want to hear you.
I got a big mouth, they'll hear me. I'm from Levine, that's where I currently live. So I want to speak about Levine first. Last year when I was speaking, I was complaining about the rash of burglaries and punk activity that we had going on in Levine, and so I want to start by saying thank you. The increased PD presence is noted,
and appreciated. Your CAOs are outstanding. They work with our communities, our HOAs, our block watch committees, and they work very closely in trying to curb the negative activity that's going on there. So we're really, really pleased with that. We're really pleased the 202 is finally being built. We're very unhappy with the rash of fast food. We would like to not be known as a fast food city, and we rapidly are becoming that. And senior center, we've got a huge population in Laveen, and we hear of no activity leaning toward developing a senior center or a park district association. And we know this is not in your current budget, but we'd like you to think about it because we are a growing community, and I think our numbers deserve one at this point. Okay, now SOW. I'm a member here. I run the bingo, and yes, you did knock us off the calendar.
My fault.
Had bingo been going on, this room would be full. Sorry to say, bingo's more popular than you are. But once again, I'm going to start with a thank you. Last year, I was quite vocal about some problems we had with our food service. And I have to honestly say, starting at 8 o'clock the following morning, it was being addressed. And we know you're not running a restaurant, we don't have restaurant quality food, but our complaints that were registered have all been taken care of. And by and large, we're pretty much okay with the food service as it is. What I'd like to talk about is this center. In September of 1999, they had the grand opening of this center, this rented center. When that occurred, they brought in the members from a couple makeshift centers and created SOW. At the time, and I'm getting this information not from the logs because I couldn't find any information online, so I've been talking to our senior resident historians. When this was opened, there were 4 other centers, they believe. South Mountain had already been built. Marcus Denise was part of the projects. There were 2 other centers that were in existence. And then they rented this one. We opened it up in September of 1999. I have to say it looks really good today. This is not how it normally looks. I'm not sure what the change is. But being a rented center, we don't quite have the availability to provide services that other senior centers have. If you take a walk around, this is our main room. This is it. So if you have a function going on, say a bingo going on, the men that want to play billiards, and sometimes we let them play, but it's very distracting. If they want to have a cup of coffee, it's very distracting. If the food is being delivered through the back door, it's very distracting. Domino's players want to play, we have to shove them in a little craft room, and as many can fit in the room, that's how many can play. Otherwise, too bad, so sad. So we don't have any options. The other senior centers that have been built have multiple rooms. So you have a meeting room, you have maybe an activity room. This is it. We make it work because there's an outstanding group of senior citizens that are members here. These folks have grown up together. Most of them are related one way or another. They don't all necessarily live here. They come back because this was their home neighborhood. And so it's a very loyal, wonderful following of seniors. And because of that, we make do with what we have to do, with what we have to make do with. We need a center. We absolutely need a senior center. And I know the city owns some buildings around here that at some time in the recent past have become vacant. They could have been renovated. I mean, we're not asking for the Taj Mahal, but we need a senior center where we can actually function. What you see now is, I'd say about 3 or 4 years ago, we had a supervisor that came in and it looked awful. Hadn't been painted, nothing had been done. She raised money to buy the supplies. got volunteers to come in, and the whole place was painted, which is why it looks as well as it looks today. Because it's a rented facility, and we had a bathroom light out in recent times, and it took 3 days to get a light installed in the bathroom. I mean, those are the kind of things that happen when you don't own the facility. If you owned it, you'd have somebody on site that could take care of any problems that come up with. So basically, our complaint here is we need a senior center. And the sad thing, the other thing I want to leave you with is the very sad thing is when I was talking with some of our members and some of my bingo volunteers, I said, well, I'm going to once again see if we can't get them to consider a new senior center. And the response was, why bother? We're South Phoenix, we're not going to get anything. That is something you need to correct. South Phoenix deserves, just like every other portion of Phoenix does. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Bobby, and we will note the strong applause from Bobby's colleagues, and thank you all for hosting us here today. As I mentioned earlier, the city is partnering with AARP on an age-friendly communities initiative, and right now we're looking at senior centers across the city right now to try to see what we need to do to make sure we're serving needs as well as we can, we're making the right investments, and so that's a significant effort, and there'll be visits to senior centers, including tomorrow, from a committee of citizens who are looking at that and putting in advice. We have very much appreciate the input here today and have been trying to make upgrades. So the last time we were here, we heard about the air conditioner, and it seems to be working a little bit better, although I guess we will test it this summer. Some safety issues in the area, but we realize we are not done and we have a lot of work to do. This certainly is an area of town that has more senior centers than other areas, such as Levine, which Bobby mentioned. We have a capital improvement plan for the city, and not this budget year, but the next one, there is a Levine Community Center plan. So there are investments that we are looking at and making, and thank you so much for your input. We will continue to try to do better.
Thank you. We also had, not wishing to speak, but supporting that Francis Echeverria also supported needing a new senior center, and Pauline Tafoya did not wish to speak, but wished to express we need a new center because this facility is too small. Do we have that one? We had another card there with a question. Okay. I think Aurelia Pierce?
That's me.
Did you wish to speak? Okay. Beautiful. Come on, Aurelia, and Aurelia will be followed by Iris Roger.
My name is Aurelia Pierce, and I am a member of the Senior Center here. I think it's a godsend from the city. Thank you very much, first of all. But my problem, or my situation, is the homeless. I would like to know from the city what they're doing for the homeless. We have to interact with the homeless here. We've had several situations, and I'd like to briefly hurry through, okay? And this might point to the urgency of getting a new senior center. We have had people sleeping right outside our front door. We've had a naked lady over here. I myself experienced one time somebody really high on drugs walk in here and ask me, where am I? What am I doing here? And I can tell you, anybody can take any one of us in here. We're all older, and I'm going to use the word facetiously, okay? But it's interesting. I mean, I come here to enjoy. And another thing, which I don't know, Vicky's going to get me for this, but about 2 years ago, Vicky went to the little corner, or the store over here, and there was a robbery going on. Somebody pulled a gun. Or was it a rifle? Rifle. Now, Vicky's young, but I know it was scary. This is a very precarious area. I myself like the layout of the senior center. I like the openness of it, that you can see everything that's going on. But the situations out there are scary. We've had people that come on a regular basis. That's scary. I don't say scare me because I'm not scared, but I think it just kind of gives us a view of something. And that gets to the homeless. These people are sleeping out there. Is there a percentage of the budget for the homeless? Okay, that's what I'm kind of interested because it has affected robbery, actual violence with a gun. You can ask Vicki, the staff member here. The naked lady was, well, I didn't go see, but, you know, that was interesting, to say the least. And the man that was really high on drugs, it turned out well. They called the police and they took him away. And that was good. But we're old people. And heavens forbid we get into a spot. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Aurelia. I'm going to ask Mo Gallegos if he would come up and answer your question a little bit about the homeless. But one of the things with the budget is to add some assistance for outreach to get with people that you're describing, Aurelia, to help take some pressure off our police officers, because we're asking our police officers to be social workers too, and that's not what they're trained to be. We need to get people who are trained in that to assist that. So that's part of what we're doing with the budget. But Mo Gallegos is our Human Services Director. I asked him to just talk for a second about what the city's efforts in homelessness are, because it's a very good question.
Okay, so again, Mo Gallegos, Human Services Director, and annually we spend over $3.5 million in homelessness, CAS, and many other contracts. We also have staff that we put up in the budget, as Ed indicated and you saw in the video. There is a call for more outreach and engagement, and this is the kind of outreach that we would go out on a call like that. We can't necessarily prevent everything, but we can be very responsive and come out and see what we can do to try to get people into services. So this is very important. We work very closely with police, with neighborhood services, and all the community partners to make sure that we're trying to cover all of the areas of the city and cover them as quickly as we can. Just like the police department has response times, we struggle with those as well. The resources that are in the budget will help tremendously to be able to provide not only an immediate call, but the thing about the homeless, people that are experiencing homelessness, they need consistent and constant contact. When you come out and speak to them, they aren't necessarily ready to come into services, they don't trust us, so we have to come out consistently. So without the resources to do that, it's very difficult for us to build a relationship and get out. So these resources that we've talked about are very important to us. We can always do more, we will continue to try to do more. The city does a great job, in my opinion. The community in general recognizes that, and we're just trying to do everything more that we can, and the budget is reflective of that.
Thanks, Mo. Thank you, Aurelia.
Thank you, sir.
We had a card from Iris Roger. Iris wished to speak about senior lunches. And Iris will be followed by, I apologize, Sharo Petrat?
Sharon Petroff.
Sharon, I'm sorry, I didn't see the N in there. Sharon will be next.
Morning, my name is Iris Rogers. Having just arrived, I don't know what has already been spoken. I'm sure it has already been spoken, so I'm just going to make it short because I would probably be just repeating what someone else has said. The lunches are terrible. City of Phoenix came to us a couple of years ago and said, these people are great, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to offer this. And so we kind of like, we trusted you, not that we had any other option, but we trusted you that it was going to be good. It has not been good. The quality of this food down here is terrible. All you have to do is come and send someone from the City of Phoenix, stand at the garbage can, and look at the waste that goes day after day after day, because the people won't eat it. They take the milk, the fruit, and that's it. Now, we trusted you, City of Phoenix, when you said these people are good. They're going to give you this, the quality of it, and if something is wrong, you just contact us. This person is going to be here occasionally. It has not been what was promised. And it was very disappointing to find out that the City of Phoenix had renewed the license to Sorrelco with the terrible service that they were giving. I just want to say the quality of the food is awful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. I'm sorry to hear that, and I'll ask Mr. Gallegos if he'll talk with you about that specific issue. He'll catch you. Sharon, I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Sharon, and when
So they can hear you, you've got to come right to the mic. There you go.
I walked around the corner, and one day seeing somebody shoot up their arm, and I was kind of scared, and then we need like a new floor in here. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you all for sharing. That's all the cards I have, unless there are any last ones. All right. Well, thank you for your feedback and input. We have, I believe, 8 more budget hearings like this throughout the city over the next 2 weeks. So we invite you to come to those. Bobby, I'm sure we'll see you in Levine as we did last year. And we look forward to that hearing next week in Levine. The budget will be presented to the council on May the 9th, taking into account all the feedback we have, and then we'll move forward from that point. So we thank you so much for your time being here today, and we wish you a good rest of the day. Thank you so much.
Yeah, on that exists here, I would just want to say thank you very much for coming and listening to our concerns. We do have some concerns here, but they vary, you know, from starting from outside to in here. But mostly, I just want to thank you. Thank you guys very much for coming. Thank you. Thank you.
We want to thank you again for hosting us. Thank you for hosting us. It's good to be back. We hope that the last time we came, we made some of the improvements, but we heard about more work to do and look forward to seeing what we can do to make it even better. Thank you for sharing your time with our senior center and our budget hearing.
You have been watching a community budget hearing held recently in Phoenix. For questions, comments, or ideas, please visit phoenix.gov or call 602-262-4800. You can also send feedback through social media by using #PhoenixBudget. This video can also be seen online at phoenix.gov/PHXTV or youtube.com/City of Phoenix AZ.